Welcome to the 12th traverse in my 204th journey across the Sahyadris as part of this webinar series. Today we'll explore the first part of the region north of Mumbai, going through some eight land forts, beautiful land forts in this region. Here you can see the lake at the base of Kohoj Fort, where we took a refreshing swim that time. You can find the HD quality videos on my YouTube channel. Don't miss to subscribe to get daily updates on newly posted webinars and videos from my ultra journeys. You can also check out my ultrajourneys.org blog, and a 10-minute preview of the webinars will get posted daily on InstaTV and Facebook. Here we see the map immediate north of Mumbai. So initially we start on the left side there, where we cover three forts in one single range. Asafgat, Kaldurg and Tundlewadi, a bit lesser known forts. Then we come down closer to Mumbai to Gandhara and Kamandurg. Next we will proceed and check out Takmak Fort, a beauty, Kohoj Fort, equally beautiful, and then Ashirigat. Asavagat Fort is located in the Polgar, which has 8 forts divided in 2 groups, 5 sea forts that are along the coast and 3 hill forts on the sub-range of the Sahyadris to the east. Asava Fort is located at the northern tip of the sub-range, with Tundlewadi Fort at the southern tip and Kaldurg approximately in the center, next to the Chahat Pass, through which the Polgar Manor Road runs. As we get up and search a bit for the trail to Ashavgat, we go through some dense forest here. This is really a lesser known fort, not visited much. On top we find a recently discovered cannon, which has been put up on wooden frame. We also find some huge rocket reservoirs there. One of them shown here with clear water still in December. And then a huge reservoir built inside side of the hill, surrounded by a huge wall, where we also find again, as usual in the Konkans, a snake skin. Let's take a closer look this time at the skin.
On top of Asa Vagat Fort, north of Mumbai, we came inside a bigger water reservoir on top of the fort and crossed this at least 3-4 meter long snake skin. Here you can see the head, the eyes, shedded skin. The water tank is built pretty big, must have supplied, drinking water to a large contingent. It's at least some 5-meter high wall, different from the usual.
Next on the list is Kaldurg Fort, which is mid the range and located to the Geit section highway that runs through the hill. Kaldurg Fort is located to the east of Polgar. It's strategically located at a height of at least 475 meters above sea level, giving views of the Arabian Sea and the industrial town of Polgar to the west, as well as views of the Surya River to the east. At the base of this pretty touristic fort, given the fact that I guess many people feed them, we can see huge crowds of monkeys. Quite the worst we can do, feed wild animals. You proceed through a nice jungly forest again here, well laid out paths with some rock cut steps. Good climb actually to the top of this fort, but again frequently traversed, so a very clear path. Here on the way to the top we can see some protruding rocks with small flags. Here we see the entire range on which the three forts which we are covering now are located. Then on top, at the side of the hill, Rock Cut Reservoir and another trekking group up there. Next then on the southern tip of this range we find Tundlewadi Fort located near Sapali. It is not a fully built up fort but a series of structures spread over the top of the mountain. The fort dates back almost 800 years and was primarily used as a watchtower over the surrounding plains. At a height of 24 feet, it has views on the confluence of the Surya and the Vaitarna rivers. This is again a lesser visited fort, looking at the state of the trail. Again, beautiful kind of remains of this 800-year-old staircase going up through the forest. Midway you have kind of a flat open zone, very rocky, less vegetation, before you head into the forest again and reach here to the top, where you get beautiful views on the river valley below there. Not much on top. We find one bust of Chhatrapati Shivaji and one big reservoir, as well as some remains of a fortified wall in the back there. Coming back to the base, we find this Buffy chilling out in a big pond near the village at the base of this fort. Next we proceed to Gandhara at the adjacent range to the east in Bhiwandi Taluka of the Thane district on a hill 1949 feet high. Can be reached from the village of Dugat. After 1.5 to 2 hours of climb, one reaches on a plateau, and then another 30-40 minutes hike takes you to the top. The fort has a fortification wall and a Gomukhi style entrance between two bastions in a dilapidated condition. So you can see the climb from the village on the north east is quite steep and proceeds along kind of a narrow ridge from the forest below. Previous night we were halting in this peaceful village with beautiful old style buildings, fairly close to Mumbai, so cannot escape actually from the development and the money flowing in. Here we can see some of the villagers in harvesting.
Sifting of rice in a small village at the base of one of our forts. Harvest month of November in the village. After cutting the plant.
Voila, as we proceed further to the base we can find some individual huts and very traditional people who still live close with nature and living in a self-sustained way with small farms around their house. The hills are getting and the grasses are getting drier as we climb up through the forest, finding the trail a little bit initially difficult. We proceed along the ridge now. The trail is a bit more clear, passing through intermittent open and jungly sections. Here some wild bananas along the way. And then coming towards the top of Gandhara, initially somewhere below the top, we find a couple of big reservoirs. Some of them hold water, some of them are leaking. As we climb up further to the final steep section to the top of the hill, again, beautiful views on the surrounding lush green forests in the valleys below. Here some remains of a fortification wall as we reach the top of the fort. Voila. A bit in the back then we find one rock here with a flag on the northern side of Gandhara. Next is Kamandurg, stands tall and proud to be the second highest fort in the Thane district and still has some signs of ancient times. The fort is special in its own way by having a gradual steep climb of about 2.5 hours through dense forest, rock-cut steps, but in spite of that is rarely visited. Kamandurg played an important role during the Battle of Vasai, and the main aim it was built for was to keep an eye on the trade route carried through the Ulas River below. Here you can see heavy vegetation as we make our way up to the fort on top there in the back. We again, as usual, follow a ridge line to get to the top. Here, closer to the top, you can see it getting quite steep, the final section up there as we step out of the forest. Let me take you on a small climb through the final rock cut steps on top.
We're climbing up rock steps of Kamandurg here near northern Mumbai. Beautiful view. Nice way up. Frequently used trail. It's around 5 o'clock, so slowly the sun is setting down. Almost on the top. It's been a bit tough during the monsoon, but now I get good grip on the dry rocks.
Voila, finally beautiful views here with the sun setting down and reflecting on some of the lakes in the plains. Densely vegetated, these hills in the Konkan plains of the coast of Mumbai. You can find a big rock cut reservoir here near the top, as well as a lot of campsites and dirt left behind by the people who visit these places, drink and probably play music rather than enjoying nature. Voila, at the base of Kamandurg we find lush stream flowing and some nice deeper places where we can take a refreshing dip in the flowing water.
At the base of Kamandurg we have a little refreshing stream here coming down. A big pool of crystal clear water coming from the 600-meter peak and surrounding wildlife sanctuary. It's now Sunday evening. The sun is setting. Taking a quick dip to wash all the sweat away before we return to Pune. Good water flow still after quite some time since the monsoon has ended. Always nice, refreshing.
Okay, next on the list is Kohoj Fort. It's said to be 800 years old and finds a mention in the Purandar Treaty along with 22 other forts, which were surrendered by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to the Mughals on 11 June 1665. It was also an important fort for keeping a look on the nearby coast and used to keep the territory safe and secure. Stunning setting at the base of the fort here, where you find a huge lake after walking already an initial section from the road. Crystal clear waters, so perfect actually to keep yourself cool in this humid heat at the Konkan plains now after we left the cool Sahyadri ranges. Join me for a swim.
That was a refreshing dip at Geit Fort.
Cool. So then on the way up we still find again some nice mountain streams where we can quench our thirst. Climate is very hot and humid, so we decide to drop some clothes. On mid-level section of Kohoj we have a vast plateau where we find this small temple, as well as a couple of rock cut reservoirs. And then on the way up to the final section of the fort, below the upper pinnacle, we find big rock cut caves again, water reservoirs for the troops. This is the staircase that leads to the bastion, the main entry gate to the top section of the fort. Here the same view from the top of the gate, where we can see this quite expansive mid-level section. It's again towards the evening, so beautiful sunsets, views. We find some old rock cut stones along the way, and here the signature two pinnacles on top of the hill of Kohoj overlooking the lake below. Next is the historical Takmak Fort, situated in Vasai Tehsil, Thane district. The fort is naturally separated from the main hills, surrounded by dense forest. It was built in the 12th century to safeguard the business routes by keeping a watch on the activities which enrouted from Mahim, Mahakawati. Here we'll be climbing out through some pretty remote sections. I mean, initially in the plains, and go through quite a bit of interior places. The trail was not very clear to finally hit the main trail at the base, which climbs up through very dense forest, and as you can see follows a ridge to reach to the top of the fort. This thing we do in the night, as we don't find a place to stay. People are a bit scared as they see two guys walking in the dark at the base of the fort, and we anyway decide to camp on top, where the climate will be much more enjoyable.
We are scaling up Takmak Fort in the night, as we did not find a proper place to stay at the base before the climb. Takmak is up there, another 1 kilometer to go after an initial quite steep climb. We're walking on a ridge now with nice views on the valley there, where National Highway 48, Delhi Mumbai Highway, proceeds towards South Mumbai. Finally got a cool breeze after all the sweat during the climb.
Voila, then here views during the day of the same ridge through which we climbed out of the forest to the final top section of the fort. Couple of kind of tricky rock cut step sections there that lead to the top of the fort. The top is quite vast, a vast hill with a couple of like temple structures and caves and reservoirs here and there. This is the place where we had a wonderful night rest on top of the hill, breezy and free from sweat and insects. Voila, this was the first part of the beautiful forts located north of Mumbai. Stay tuned to my blog ultrajourneys.org, where you find all the webinar series as well as lots more. So see you guys tomorrow for the second part of the northern Mumbai region.